Welcome, horror fans. You're listening to Someone's in My Fruit Cellar podcast with Blake and Lonnie.
Welcome to Someone's in My Fruit Cellar podcast.
Where the trapdoor creaks open and horror classics come back to life.
I'm Blake.
And I'm Lonnie.
Each episode, we dive into the blood-soaked brilliance of classic horror films, breaking down the 10 scenes that sent shivers down your spine and etched themselves into horror history.
From demonic possessions to final girls, we'll dissect what made these moments unforgettable and crank up the dread with the perfect soundtrack to match each one.
Please visit our socials. We are on Instagram and Facebook at Someone's in My Fruit Cellar. You can find our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts. Please rate and review. I also have another podcast called the Metal Pit Podcast. You can find that also everywhere you listen to podcasts. And please visit the Metal Pit website, which is www.themetalpit.org. What about you, Lonnie? How can people find you on socials?
You can find me on Facebook, Lonnie Hilario, and on Instagram, Decay of Reality.
Okay, so this week I watched two new horror movies, I guess. One is Clown in a Cornfield. Have you heard about that one?
I have.
Have you?
I
Have
have
you seen
heard
it?
about
You
it.
haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it, and I have to see it. I have to see it.
I wasn't going to watch it because I thought that looks stupid. But then I think I saw the trailer or something and I thought, okay, I'll watch it. And then the other one was Death of a Unicorn, which has Jenna Ortega in it and Paul Rudd. There's a guy that I don't remember his name, but there's a couple other actors in it that look like it's not like a B movie. It's more of a high budget horror comedy fantasy movie or whatever. But I found they're both good. I like them both, and I don't want to say anything so people can go watch them. But go watch Clown in a Cornfield. It's different than I thought it was going to be. It goes along the same teenagers and whatever. Clown comes out of a cornfield. The plot's not that, but it has a twist in it, of course. And Death of a Unicorn is just about a unicorn. And we don't know if unicorns are real. Maybe they are real. But if you watch this movie, they are real. But anyway, I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah.
And funny, because Paul Rudd's kind of funny. So it was a little different in that way.
That's crazy that Paul Rudd was in that movie. I would have never expected him to be in a horror movie.
Yeah, I know. And it was funny too. And like they say, one of the guy, I can't remember his name, but he was in another comedy movie with, I think, Christina Applegate. When was that? Oh no, maybe that was National Lampoons. They remade like National Lampoons with, I think, Christina Applegate was the mother, and like Chevy Chase and whatever was the parents of the guy whose name I forget, but the boy that was in the movie, I think that's the same guy that was in this movie, but he's bigger now, of course, but he was funny in this movie too. But anyway, it's a good movie, so go check them both out. Maybe sometime we'll do a new movie as an episode. We'll have to see about that.
Oh yes, we could do a lot of new movies.
But if you're new to the podcast and you've never seen the movie that it says in the title, then you might not want to listen to it because obviously it's spoilers. But we're figuring since we do these classic movies from the 70s or 80s or 90s or whatever we're going to do, that you've seen the movie and that's why you're going to listen to us. So, speaking of that, we're going to talk about, already we mentioned in the last podcast. And of course, if you're reading the title, you know what it is.
Send more paramedics.
We're doing Return of the Living Dead from 1985. You want to say anything about the movie before we start talking about the movie?
I didn't see this movie when it first came out because I was 5 years old. I wasn't allowed to watch it because of the naked girl in the movie. But I did watch it many times since then. It is a great movie. And I think one of my most favorite things about the movie is that the zombies actually talk and they have some sort of intelligence to them. They're smart. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and this was like, I don't know what zombie movie it was that I seen. Like I mentioned before, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things was the first zombie movie I seen. And probably Night of the Living Dead. Maybe, I'm not sure, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, one of those ones. I'm not sure if that came out before this. I didn't look at the year. But
Yeah,
anyway, I can't
Romero.
remember. But anyway, this was one of the ones that was the first funny one too. And not necessarily that's funny, but just the two characters, when we'll get into that, but the Freddie and Frank guy, I just find them to be hilarious at what's happening to them and how they're reacting to stuff that's going on.
I just love the way that the film is so anarchy. It mocks the government, the military, the healthcare professionals, basically everyone in charge of this during this movie makes things worse. They don't make anything better. I guess that's the moral of this story.
And let's see, there's parts, we'll get to that later, but a short plot, it's a bumbling, like, I don't know what, bumbling warehouse owner. I guess he's not bumbling, it's his workers that are bumbling, maybe. But anyway, his
Yeah.
two equally doomed employees, a creepy mortician buddy, and a ragtag gang of punk teens accidentally unleash a horde of brain craving, unkillable zombies that turn a quiet town into a blood soaked nightmare. Now, I'm not going to mention everybody that's in the movie, but I'll make a few comments here. Clue Gulager, I'm not even sure how to say his name, but who he plays Bert, the owner of the place. He was also in Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and in one of the best movies ever, Piranha 3 Double D. And we had James Karen playing the part of Frank, and he was also in the movie Poltergeist, and he was in Return of the Living Dead 2, as there's 5 Return of the Living Deads. I have seen 2.5 of them so far. And then we have Don Calfa as Ernie, the mortician, and he was in Weekend at Bernie's, which people might know the comedy. He was in Weekend at Bernie's. And we got Tom Matthews playing Freddy, and he was in Friday the 13th, Part 6. He had a big role in that movie. And he was also in Return of the Living Dead, Part 2. And let's see here. And one of the punks named Spider, he was in Friday the 13th, Part 5. And let's see here. And Linny, I don't know. Do you know how to say her name? Linny Quigley?
Linnea.
Linny Quigley, whatever. Okay. And she plays Trash, and she has been in a whole bunch of horror movies. I'll ring these off: Silent Night, Deadly Night, Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama, Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, Night of the Demons, Nightmare on Elm Street 4. So she's been in a lot of movies and probably naked in most of them.
Oh, that was her thing. That was her
Yes.
thing. Yep.
And I know I've seen she wasn't in, was she in one of the Evil Deads? I forget. Maybe not. I don't know. But I did see a documentary on her and a couple other people, that females, Scream Queens, I guess. That might have been the name of it too. I'm not sure. But
Anytime they
okay.
needed a naked girl, they'd call Linnea.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're new to the podcast, we divide the movie into 10 vital kind of scenes or vital parts, and then we pick a song that we think will fit our soundtrack choice. Now, you want to mention something about the sound, you want to mention about it now, the soundtrack that the movie actually does have.
Yes, the movie soundtrack fits the movie perfectly. I do love the soundtrack, the original soundtrack to the movie. And it gives it that punk vibe, that anarchy feeling. It's a great soundtrack, and we're not trying to change anything. We're just giving it a little bit of a more metal vibe.
Yeah, I'm not much of a punk fan, a little bit. I listened to a little bit of punk back then. But yeah, so we're gonna do, or I'm gonna have some mostly metal songs. I might have, I don't know, one of the groups is close to punk.
Yep.
But whatever, but we'll get to that. Okay, so first we're gonna start off with the first section. I'm gonna call "You Want to See a Dead Body," but this is just the opening of the movie where Frank gives new employee Freddie a tour of the Unita Medical Supply Warehouse. And some of the creepy inventory is half dissected dogs that are used for veterinary training. Freddie playfully growls at one, but Frank shuts that down quick, saying, "No fooling around. You're here to learn," which is, oh no, that comes later.
Boy,
And
will
let's
he
see.
learn.
And we get to we see Freddie's friends, who is the gang of punks who are just out. None of them have jobs except Freddie, I guess. And so they're waiting for Freddie to get off work so they can go party. And there was one line with the punks it says, "You like sex with death?" And the one says, "Yeah, then fuck off and die." I don't know. It's comical. And of course, it gives you the rebellious punk tone, as you mentioned before. And let's see,
Yeah.
and back in the warehouse, Freddie asks Frank about the weirdest thing he's ever seen come into the warehouse. And Frank spills some brain juice about Night of the Living Dead movie, saying that it was based on a true story, that the government covered it up and the filmmakers had to change the details to be able to release the movie. And this kind of gives a little bit of backstory of how this movie is going to be different from your Night of the Living Dead, because this is real. This is a real story with real people, which of course it isn't, but they say it is at the start of the movie.
But let me just mention that the skeletons are again real in this movie when he's showing him around the warehouse. They likely came from India, from outsourced medical suppliers. And it was because, again, it was really inexpensive to use real human skeletons than it was to use plastic or prop.
Yes.
I thought that was interesting.
Now, I don't know about those half dogs.
Those are not real. That's animatronics.
Now, do you want to say anything else about this? This is just our third episode. So the first two movies that we did, the first part was always driving somewhere. But this is a little different. They're not driving, but they're setting it up in a warehouse where a guy's trying to start a new job. So do you want to add anything to the scene before you?
Yes, he's the only one with a job, but he's that all around innocent, naive boy who's just trying to make a living. And I feel like he's not part of the punk group. I feel like he is part of it, but I feel like he's more level-headed,
Yes.
of course, than the other ones.
Didn't really look that punk or anything like some of the other ones.
No, his girlfriend doesn't either. She's the girl next door, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's definitely has that comedy feeling right from the beginning of the movie. And it's the storytelling about a military mishap is hilarious in and of itself, because again, it gives it that anarchy feeling where people in charge they mess everything up. But I did like the skeleton thing, and I did like when I did research it, I had a feeling they were real, but I thought that was really cool. I wish they would still do that today.
Tariffs are too high now to do that.
Yes, and it's illegal, I think, at this point.
Probably.
But it's mostly casual in the beginning, because we're looking at a medical supply store, but when they bring us into the store, there's nothing like a medical supply store. To me, a medical supply store is wheelchairs, walkers, canes. It was nothing like that. And he's just so casual about it. So I thought that was interesting.
So what song do you pick for the opening of the movie?
The opening of the movie, I chose Spawn of Possession Cabinet, and that one was released on August 3rd, 2010. And the reason I chose it because the lyrics line up. It's not specifically made for this movie, but I thought it was a good thing because it says years of strain, obsolete, forgotten, but was never dead. One of the quotes from the songs, because they're not really dead, they're just in canisters, right?
Yeah.
The Swedish death metal too.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. What was the group's name?
Spawn of Possession.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's that name.
Yeah. What did you choose?
Okay, now mine's lame. I don't know, but I went with a Rush song, "Working Man," because
Yes, I
he's
love
starting the
it.
job, right? So he's
That's a great
working man.
one.
Now, of course, none of the lyrics has anything to do with it. I just thought that was a cute title, and it works and gets my Canadian content in here. I think that's my only Canadian one on my list this time. And that was from I don't know, I guess that was Rush's debut album or at least self-titled album, but that was in 1974.
Rush
But
is
I
great.
think that would work if there was no vocabulary and he's showing a guy around a new job. That would work.
He's showing him around, but there's something very unsettling about that medical supply place.
But he seems really interested though. Especially
Yeah.
at the end, I didn't say that, but Frank says, "Do you want to see it?" Like the canister, the body, or whatever. That is how the first part ended. And now the second part, which I guess opening the canister is what I'm calling it. So they go into the basement of this warehouse and he shows off some military canisters that just casually are storing actual corpses. And he cleans it off so he can look in the window because there's a glass or plastic, whatever, opening. And so you can see this face in it. And of course, and he says, I think Freddie might say, "Do they leak or whatever?" And Frank says, "No, these are made by the US government." And he slams it with his fist. And then, of course, it leaks. And the gas leaks out and hits them in the face. And they both fall to the ground. It's like this green vapor comes into the room. And this kind of is the start of the movie, more or less, more than the first part, is this is when the zombie thing is going to start. And that's all I had. Now, that's a really short paragraph thing there, but that's what I had because I separated it. I had a lot in the first one. So
Yeah, and I feel like the scenes could all go together, flow.
Yeah.
I think so. So it's hard to separate them up.
Yeah.
But the canister leak is actually the biggest turning point, and it happens right away. There's no plan, just chaos. The gas leaks and the dead rise right away. The events of everything spiral out of control fast, and there's no slow buildup like other zombie movies. It's just instant chaos in this movie with the characters making rash and desperate decisions on a whim. So yeah, then the zombies are able to problem solve in this movie, which makes it extremely different than other movies.
Yes. And we don't have, we haven't really seen them. I mean, right now they just got gassed or whatever. And that was the end of that scene, I guess you would call it, or at least that's what I'm calling it. But we know it's going to start happening.
The tone and the atmosphere in this between scene 1 and 2, it shifts from playful to shockingly intense.
Yeah.
And of course, it's laced with dark humor because it's a punk movie. Yeah. But the release of the trioxin gas, it portrayed as sudden with just chaotic energy. They pass out, they go unconscious. What surprises me is that he doesn't want to call the number on the canister. He wants to try to cover it up. They probably would have been nuked sooner though.
Yes, probably. So what song do you have for that then?
I have another death metal song, Malevolent Creation and Remnants of Withered Decay. It's from 1989 album, The 10 Commandments. So I chose that. They're from Buffalo, New York, actually.
And I just went with my idea is the gas leaking and getting into their faces and knocking them out. So I went with ACDC's Inject the Venom.
Yes.
And
I know we're not going to match today. We're not going to. No, we're not. And that's a great one.
And that's from their 1981 album for those about to rock. But yeah, me. Okay, then third part. I guess I'm gonna call the title "Let's Fool Around in the Cemetery," even though this goes all over the place too, this section. But anyway, so it's the time to kill. Of course, they don't know what's going on yet. The gang, his friends, the gang punks or whatever. So they decide to go to the cemetery to fool around because why wouldn't they? And so they go in there and start drinking and whatever. Does she start dancing? Yeah, that's later. That is in that scene, but we'll get back to that in a second. Oops, I skipped too far on my tablet. Sorry. Okay. But then back at the medical supply warehouse, Frank and Freddie come to after being knocked out cold by the gas leak. But something's off. The corpse that was in the canister is gone, and they're hacking up a lung and things are getting worse as a coffin. And then they go back upstairs, and then they hear some noises, some whimpering kind of noises, and then they see the split dogs are whimpering and twitching or whatever. And then the cadaver starts banging around. And is that hanging in a room, or is that hanging on the racks right there? I forget that part, but no, I think they throw it into the room, don't they? Later, the cadaver, skeleton, I forget.
Tarman?
No, just the skeleton that's hanging. There's a skeleton hanging there, and it starts shaking or something, right?
Oh yes, I think they just throw it.
Okay, into that room, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're freaking out, of course. Freddie yells, "You stupid asshole," to Frank, and Frank fires back, "Watch your mouth if you want to keep this job." Because
keep this job.
And he goes, "What are we going to do?" And like you said, he didn't want to call the army or whatever. And so they have to call the boss. So he phones up boss and he goes, "Hey, Bert, we've got a little problem." So it is, I guess it's a little problem at the start, or at least they hope it's a little problem. But so what do you think of that scene, or what do you want to add to that scene?
There's tension, obviously, in the scene of impending doom. They're running around not knowing what to do, but I still say they should have called the number, but their demise would have been a lot sooner, I think. But they try to cover it up. And I think the scene, I wanted to mention about her when she dances with the flares and everything. I want to say her name is Linnea, but it's trash, right?
Yeah.
She actually had a respiratory incident after because of all of the smoke. I guess she was coughing so much after that scene. But I think I don't know. It's very suspenseful because you don't know what's going to happen next. Like I said, they're infected and they don't even know it. They don't even know that they're infected at this point, but they're still trying to find a way to cover it up.
Yes. And yeah, and I guess there's one part I did skip over, which probably would have been in the second part, but where they show the government guy at his house and his wife, and saying
his wife Ethel.
Yeah, they still can't. They don't know where these canisters are, which whatever. But I left that out because it's boring when you're watching it. But it is.
Yes, and they make him. He's military, so they're of course anarchy movies. So they're making him look like he lives in the best life and everything's chill. But
yeah, so they just don't know where these canisters ended up or whatever.
Yeah,
I guess when they got them at the warehouse, they didn't bother to say, "We have your canisters." I don't know. I'm not sure why they didn't call when they got them. But anyway, but yeah.
I wanted to mention also the make and model of the car in the movie is a 1959 Cadillac Miller Meteor. So it was a hearse / ambulance conversion that they made out of this car. So it's really, the style was classic, gothic, and fitting for this movie. Although it leaked like crazy.
There was seven of them in the car, wasn't there? And then they wanted to pick up Freddy too. That would have been 8.
Yep, that would have been 8. It's a clown car.
Yeah. Yes.
But once the gas leaks and then the dead start to arise, things spiral out of control really fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And okay, so what song do you have for that part there?
I have Aborted, Condemned to Rot. This is thematically inspired by the movie. So this band made this song specifically for this movie, and it's off their Vault of Horrors album, released in 2024, which was recently, and it featured Francesco Pioli from Flesh God Apocalypse. You've heard of Flesh God Apocalypse.
I've heard that name, yes.
Yeah, but they made that song specifically for this movie.
Oh, but it wasn't on the
Huh?
soundtrack though. No. They did. Yeah, okay.
Nope.
Checking. My song, I went with the part where Frank and Freddy wake up after being knocked out, and so my choice was "Wake Up Dead" by Megadeth, because, as we'll find out later, they are dead in a way, but we'll get
Mega death. Yes, absolutely.
and that, of course, is from Megadeth's Peace Cells album, 1985. Then we go to part number 4, which is called, let's see, We Gotta Burn the Body. And so this is, so Bert gets to the warehouse to see what's the little problem is. And let's see, they open up the door to let that, because they threw that cadaver in that room or whatever, so they let it out so that they could kill it or whatever they were going to do with it. And so they jab a pickaxe into its head, but it kept moving, because on the Night of the Living Dead, all you had to do was kill the brain. So they were going for the brain or whatever. So then they said, okay, let's saw his head off. So they saw the head off of the cadaver, but the body still keeps flailing around. And Freddy, horrified, he blurts out, "You mean the movie lied?" Of course, Night of the Living Dead he's talking about, because we know that zombie rules are different in this movie than they are in Night of the Living Dead.
Definitely.
So they decide to, Bert thinks, so maybe his buddy Ernie that has a mortuary across the street or whatever beside them, maybe he can help solve the problem. So they go over there, convince them to, and they got parts of the body in bags, and he's saying that they're, what did he say? They're weasels, I think, rabid weasels or something. And he goes, "You want me to burn rabid weasels or whatever?"
Rabid weasels.
You should take them to the vet or whatever. But anyway, so they finally have to come clean and say what's going on, and saying, so maybe we can burn the body and that will destroy it. And we got to destroy the brain, because that's what they told us in Night of the Living Dead. So they put him in the incinerator, and he burns them, or he burns the body, and that's the end of the scene, I guess. I'm going to end the scene there anyway, to where the body's burning and we see the smoke starting to come up, but that's where it ends. So what do you think, or what do you have to add?
The overall tone is claustrophobic, and our guy, the mortician, he's the only one with a gun, right? He's a doctor and he's the only one with a gun, but it doesn't do anything, as we see later on. But there's a layer of dark comedy, I think, even in this scene, because when they finally show him what's in the bags, the arm comes flailing out and grabs him by the ankle. So he's trying to fight it off and says, "Get it off me, get it off me." And then his pants rip. So I think that was the only way that they could tell him really what was going on without actually telling him. But during that scene, the special effects was for that, to create that burning corpse, was made by Tony Gardner. And then the film It underscores the irony of what's going on here. By burning the body, the characters, they unknowingly send contaminated smoke into the sky, and where it will mix with rain. That was a lot of rain. And spread the zombie plague further. So nobody knows what they think, and they're excited. There's a realization that, it's finally over. We burned the body, everything's going to be fine. And
Yes.
No. So the furnace, you look at the furnace, and actually that's not a real oven, but it was made on set, which I think was amazing. And the orange glow and then the darkness of it just solidifies what's going to happen next. But they were excited for a moment that they got rid of it.
And as they were watching that, Frank there, the one guy says, "Oh, I could run that thing," or whatever.
Yes. Okay. That's right. He said, "I could run that thing." And so that's like the precursor to what he does later.
Yeah,
and he did. He was zombified. That's why I say these things are so intelligent. He was zombified, and he could run that thing. Yeah, I could run that thing. That was funny.
It was like a line they had to say so that later people wouldn't say, "How did he know how to work it?" or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And at that point, they're really feeling sick too. They're starting to feel really sick.
Yes.
After being exposed, and it's a lot of whining is starting to happen at this point.
Yes. And so what song do you have for that one then?
Which one did I pick? I picked Abuse Ritual Rampage. And it was released in 2021 off the album Demons Run Amok. So I thought it was perfect fit for this scene, because that's what that song's about. Rampage. We're about to see these dead things coming out of the ground in a rampage, and everybody's running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to end it, right? What did you pick?
I went with, now mine is kind of, again, obvious with my title, but The Pretty Reckless. Do you know The Pretty Reckless?
Yes.
Okay. I like The Pretty Reckless. They're not really heavy, but they're in the area of heavy metal, I guess you call it.
Uh-huh.
And of course, we have Cindy Lou from The Grinch That Stole Christmas as the singer, Taylor Momsen. But anyway, I picked their song called Burn from their 2014 album Going to Hell, which also fits it. And some of the lyrics of, even though I didn't really read about what the lyrics of the song really are, I'm sure they're got nothing to do with zombies, but some of the lyrics say, "Here comes the darkness, it's eating at my brain. Now that the light is driven in me insane, this fire is blazing, I'm still inside, I just want to die here, you won't let me out alive." But anyway, I thought it fit with the lyrics too, even though
I think so.
they're not.
That does
zombies.
fit. It does. It works.
Yes. And she has some dark lyrics too, but not as dark as death metal.
Yeah. I didn't just choose death metal. I chose a couple of thrash, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I did pick some thrash.
We still have a chance to match.
Oh, yeah, we do, but I don't think it's going to happen. I tried really hard this time.
Okay, section 5. I guess I'm calling it Brain Dead, which is okay. Frank and Freddie are in rough shape, as you just mentioned, and they're still coughing and all that stuff. So they call some paramedics to come help them. So the medics come in and they check on them all, and there's no pulse, there's no blood pressure, there's no brain activity. So they're technically dead, which reminds me of Get Smart, the old TV show Get Smart.
Yep.
With Don Adams. My dad used to watch it all the time, and there was this one line where they said chaos agents or whatever. This is for old people that know the show. They said that when you wake up, I'm going to give you this and you're not going to wake up or something. And then Maxwell Smart says, "You mean when I wake up, I'm going to be dead?" And my dad always thought that was really funny. So I always remember that. So anyway, so yeah, they're technically dead, but they're not dead. So while this is going on, Freddie's girlfriend Tina is still looking for him, and instead she goes into the warehouse by herself looking for him while the gang is still at the cemetery, I think. Or I guess it was already raining, so maybe they were in the or is that?
Yeah, this is after the scene where, or was it before?
Or I guess I have that
When they're all
next.
in the car and they're getting poured on,
Okay.
and
But I don't know. She left them anyway to go find Freddie if she could. So she went into the warehouse. She went into the basement. Not sure why she would go into the basement exactly.
she's brave. She's the girl next door. She's the sweet little girl next door, but she's very brave.
So she goes into the zombie and finds the zombie, the one that was in the canister, comes lurching towards her, and we hear him say brains, and that makes us realize, oh, they need brains. That's why, because Night of the Living zombies just wanted to eat people, but
Yep.
this is saying that they want to eat brains, is what this movie is implying. And the rest of the punks, they split up to find Tina, and the toughest punk, who I think his name was Suicide, I believe. He was the first one that gets it, as the zombie that was in the canister attacks him and eats him up, or whatever you want to call it. So that's the end of the scene. Yeah. So what do you want to add to that one?
Yeah, they got sick of being rained on in the car and they couldn't cover themselves up. And Trash was still naked at this point, right? When they were pouring. And then was it Scuzz who said we need to go in and find Tina? And that's when they decided to go in because they were getting poured on out there.
And it was
acid rain, and it was hurting and burning, and they were just tired of trying to get the car started. Why the car wouldn't start, I'm not sure. But we find out the phones don't work either after a while. So I guess the zombies were really intelligent enough to cut the lines on the car and the phones. That's what I'm thinking. But then when Tina locks herself in the mortuary supply room, when I first saw this movie, I was young. I don't remember when, but I do remember seeing this part when she's coming down the stairs and the stair cracks and breaks, and you see the fear and then the desperation when she sees this Tarman, and she's alone at this point, and she put up a good fight, and she locked herself into which room was she in? She locked herself in one of those cadaver rooms, I think it was, like a supply. Yeah. And then she put a rod through the door, and she was very panic stricken and desperate. She's screaming, trembling. It scared me when I first saw this movie. I thought she was going to die first. I really thought that she was going to die first, but
no. The toughest person in the whole movie died first.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? And the way he was flailing on the floor was just perfect acting. It looked great, but there's a very intense instinct for Tina's survival. So she's trying to survive this incident, but she did get into this confined space, and I don't like confined spaces, so that scared me, seeing her confined in that way. But the brains, I guess we get the first clue here as to how they survive is by eating other people's brains. But at first, you don't realize it's to numb the pain. But yeah, you think it's just some zombie eating brains. But there's a whole storyline why that happens. But yeah, it's grotesque, slimy, unsettling. A lot of KY jelly was used to make everybody look glistened, and even Tarman, they had to douse him in KY jelly just to give it that tar, like oily type look. So I think the appearance was great in that scene as well for the actors, and the performance was from Tina was amazing.
And yeah, like I mentioned, like in the other zombie movies before it, they were just eating people, but this one was
Yeah,
saying that they wanted the brains, and
the
we find out later in
brains.
the movie more why, which you already mentioned, but why they just wanted the brains. But it was like most zombie movies, still, it wasn't just like even the Walking Dead TV show. There was nothing about you had to kill the brain, though, was how to kill them, but they would still just eat arms and legs, anything they could get
Yeah.
their hands on. It wasn't that they were just going for brains. So it was just this kind of movie series. I
And
guess
they couldn't problem solve because the chain, he gets the chain on the door to pull it even more so he can get to her. That's how desperate he was to eat her brains.
Yeah,
So
these are genius zombies.
they're genius.
Okay, and so what's your song for that one?
Okay, so I chose Abysmal Torment, Dead in the Flesh from their 2014 album, The Misanthrope. They're from Malta. I didn't know that until I looked it up. Yep. Dead in the Flesh. I feel like the ones who get infected are dead in the flesh. They're still able to move, they're still able to walk and talk, but they're dead. And another thing too about the paramedics, they were skillful, right? They switched when they switched to check the blood pressure and everything. I thought, wow, look at how organized and skillful they are. But then we find out they're dead anyway.
But yeah, I like how they're screaming and saying, "What's wrong with us?" And they had to go talk amongst themselves to try to figure out what was going on.
Yeah. Their brains must have tasted good later on when
Yeah. Okay, so my song I went with I have Suicidal Tendencies song,
that's so
Trip at the
good.
Brain,
That is so good.
which is from their How Will I Laugh Tomorrow When I Can't Even Smile Today album, which I think I used that song on the last episode, I believe, or one of the other two episodes we did. But anyway, yeah, I just went with the brain thing and Trip at the Brain there. And that's from
Yeah.
that was their 1988 album. Suicidal Tendencies are one of my favorite groups.
Oh, I love them. They're
Yes.
awesome. Did you see them on tour this year?
I've never seen them live, even though I
You've
was
never?
wanting to. I never got to see them live. No.
They were with Metallica this year, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. But Tarman, I'm obsessed with him in a way. I just want to talk a little bit about it if you don't mind.
Sure.
He wore, okay, some facts. He wore foam latex suit. It was all made of latex and highly flexible and thin, which gave the impression of rotting skin and stretched over his bone. And he had the exaggerated jerky movements. I thought it was great, inspired by mime techniques. I guess he learned some mime techniques to do that. And then his boniness was enhanced by how slim the actor was. So the actor was Alan Trotman, and the suit was designed to hug his frame and accentuate that skeletal look. And like I said, they used a lot of KY jelly to make him look like he was in a canister for eons, just marinating in there. But he's still very popular now, right? When you watch that movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's still in it later too, isn't he? I believe. Because they
Yeah.
don't kill him then or nothing. No.
That's one of the most iconic zombies in horror film history, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and like did you watch the Walking Dead TV series?
I did. Yeah.
Because that's whatever years it was on, 10 years or something like that. And now they have these other offshoots of the thing, which I don't really watch much anymore. But of course, they had Greg Nicotero on there.
Yep.
I don't think he was in this movie, but he's been on their zombie movies doing the makeup and stuff. And they're always, yeah, that I'm sure he would even say probably that's one of the iconic zombies is the Tarman one.
Sure. Yeah. He looked like he'd been decaying in toxic chemicals for years.
Yeah.
I think they hit that nail right on the head with that one. They did great. You know, there's some special effects and puppetry performance too, but the actor really knocked that one out of the park. Yeah.
Yes, that's okay. Now, okay, so number 6 of our top 10, her 10 is, let's see, they're back from the grave and ready to party, I guess is what I'm calling it. It's when the toxic rain is pouring over the cemetery because the gang is already, oh no, the gang is still there. Some of the gang is still there. So out of this might be mixed up a little. I'm not sure if that was before they left. No, because they ran back into the cemetery, didn't they? After they left the warehouse, I believe. And that's when this started happening, where the all the bodies started coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
Hands are shooting up from the ground, and the grave splitting open, and skeletons crawling out. And I guess we got a synth punk kind of soundtrack happening here with some music playing. That's maybe reminds you of Michael Jackson's Thriller thing. I guess that's probably where he got the idea. It's probably this movie, maybe.
Probably.
And Tina's friend, Trash, the naked one. This is where she gets sworn by a hungry gang of zombies. I think the other ones all got away, but she didn't get away. But it doesn't mean she's not in any. She's in later in the movie though, so don't worry, she's still around. And see, the paramedics they headed back to the ambulance because I think they were gonna call for help or something, I believe.
Yes.
But of course, they were met by a bunch of zombies and who ripped them to shreds. And then, of course, we have the famous line where a zombie grabs the ambulance radio and says, "Send more paramedics." And so, what did you think of that one?
So, first of all, Trash got her wish. That's all I'm going to say. She was fantasizing about death and thinking about ways to die, and she got her wish in that scene. I don't think she liked it. I really don't think she liked it. She was really scared. She was the straggler at that point. But they did
grab her
run
clothes, I think, too.
Yeah, she did. But the bursting from the grave in the Return of the Living Dead was pulled off by a mix of old school practical effects, stunt work, clever camera cheats. But it's the turning point in the movie where it tells you that, okay, there's not going to be an end to this. This is not going to end. This is just starting. We thought with them burning the body, we had a clue with the triotoxin in the air that something bad was going to happen, but now we're seeing it all come to fruition. What's happening? They did do pre-dug graves on the set for the actual cemetery too. So some of the actors just had arms coming out when they were underneath, but they did do real actors with that scene, and they also did animatronics like puppetry and things like that. But they were actually carefully dug pits, and they were lined to hold the mud. They had dirt, peat moss, and water to give it that soggy look, which I think is good. And it allowed the actors and stunt performers to be safely buried under the peat moss and everything, just inches under the soil. But the paramedics didn't have a chance. They did not have a chance. And when they did go back, they were calling for more. I think maybe they were trying to get the cops involved, or maybe the more paramedics. But the zombie that says send more paramedics that's a great part. Just again shows you how they can problem solve and how intelligent they can be.
Yeah. And he's trying to help too, because he's calling for more paramedics, right?
Yeah. He's calling for more paramedics. But then, is this the part where we see the midget running when they're running away? Little flailing around.
Yeah.
That one freaked me out. And it was portrayed by Jerome Daniels Coleman, and he was credited as a legless corpse in the movie. So I think it's definitely showed that punk rock type, the bursting from the grave and then the paramedics getting killed, and it just shows everybody in charge is gonna fuck this up.
This movie, it shows you how the zombie apocalypse, I guess you want to call it, started. But like the Night of the Living Dead, I don't know, it's been a while since I seen that, but did they ever really say why these bodies were walking around dead? I don't know if they ever really said what happened. Was it an army thing too? I don't even remember now.
Yeah, we don't know, right? We don't know what happened, how
Yeah.
they ended up in the canisters. We don't know much about what the military had done at that point, except my assumption is that they were, when they would lose a cadaver, when they would lose a military person in war, they would give them the triotox and make them come back to life and make them go out and fight more. But that doesn't make any sense if they want brains. Doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
plenty of assumptions.
Okay, so what's your song for that part?
So this is a thrash song, and this is the first time I ever heard this song, actually, but I did do some research to find a good song. It's called Send More Paramedics. And the band is Send More Paramedics, and it was written in 2012 on the Final Feast album. It's a song specifically for this movie that they made. I listened to it and actually really liked it and never heard it before. So
I've never heard that name before.
yeah. It's a thrash band. I'm not much of a thrash, but this one was pretty good.
I'll have to look that one up then.
Yeah, definitely. What did you choose?
And I went with Venom and their song Raise the Dead, since that's what happens in the scene is the bodies come out of the ground, so they raise the dead. And that is from Venom's black metal album in 1982,
Yay.
their second album. Because they also had buried, that was Raise the Dead there was a small thing before it called Buried Alive, and then it was they had Raise the Dead after, whatever. But anyway, because Venom, I love those first two Venom albums.
They're great.
And
That's
they
a great
fit
pick.
on lots of horror movies too, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Yeah. And now we get to the hurts to be dead thing that we were talking about a little bit with. So they captured a half corpse. I don't know, they get her in the door or something? I can't remember how because when I saw you mentioned the midget, when I saw that, I thought, oh, that must be who they captured. Trying to remember because it's been a while since I've seen the movie. And I mean, oh, no, that's not the same person. It's a female zombie. But anyway, they captured her, but it was only the top half of her body with her red hair. Looks like you, little. And so
why she had pink hair. How do you lay in a grave for eons and have pink hair?
I guess she was a punk too before she died.
Maybe.
But anyway, so they had her strapped to the table and her arms were flailing or whatever. They strapped her to the table, and then I don't know if she was moaning, but anyway, they were trying to talk to her. And so they asked her why they were attacking people or whatever. And she said, it hurts to be dead. Eating brains takes the pain away, is what she was saying, so that they understood what was going on. I guess trying to explain it to the people that are watching the movie in a way. Like, why are they eating brains? Why don't they eat legs and arms, whatever? So I guess that's why. And while this is going on, Frank and Freddie are still moaning and whining and all that stuff. And they're locked. Did they lock him? I'm not sure if they locked him in the chapel after this. I think they were still there, weren't they? And they locked him in the chapel. And they were screaming and writhing in pain as the trioxin was taking its full effect. Tina, Freddie's boyfriend, who was such a loyal girlfriend, wanted to stay in this room with these two guys, who I guess she still thought were still alive. They were just sick. Let's see. So then some cops arrive at the mortuary, and they immediately get swarmed by the undead. And of course, then we get another perfect line as the one of the zombies grabs the cop's microphone or the walkie-talkie thing there and says, "Send more cops."
Send more cops.
And okay, yeah, what do you want to talk about in that scene?
So to tie those two quotes together, John Durbin and David Bond are both credited for portraying those two zombies that intercept the radio for the paramedics and the cops. But what I thought was interesting, what I laughed about actually, was Ernie saying, I want to examine it. I want to examine it. He's strapping this thing to the table. And I think he's the only one with balls, to be honest with you, because I wouldn't have done that. But they did get the corpse at the door when they were trying to fight them off with whatever they had available to them. They were trying to bust into the mortuary. And then Ernie went and got this rod and stabbed it with a rod, and then they said, what do we do with this? And they took it out back and put it on the table. Isn't that sterile field too, where they're strapping it to this mortuary table? And it's a frantic moment for everybody, because this is the first time that they get to actually find out information as to what's going on. And of course, Tina, she's naively stays with her boyfriend. Naive. But that was what happened. Was it, they said it was after they had strapped the zombie down and got the information, it takes the pain away, and then they figured out, they made that connection. Oh no, Tina is, when these two people are going to turn at some point, now they're understanding why they're dead, why this is happening. So they do mention, we need to lock them up. We need to lock them up in a different room. But Tina decides to stay.
Yeah.
She decides to stay. But the brain's impulse is intense than when he turns.
During the scene, I think, or like during all this going on, they did show that girl, the trap girl, Trash,
Yeah.
out, and they showed her as a zombie now, and then she
Yeah.
came across a homeless guy pushing a grocery cart, and she feasts on him.
Homeless guy thought he was going to have the best night of his life. He
Yes,
thought
she was
this
still
was his dream come true. But that didn't happen.
Well, just from a distance, you just saw the naked girl coming. You didn't see her face yet until she got on the
No.
or something. Yeah. Now I found this one was a hard one to pick a song for me, but what did you go with?
Where I picked Cryptopsy, Endless Cemetery. You gotta represent Canada. Off their 2005 Once Was Not album. So Endless Cemetery is what I chose from Cryptopsy, because I feel like this is an endless cemetery.
You know, Dream Theater has a song called Take Away My Pain. So I thought about using that, but I thought, it's a ballad and it doesn't really fit. So instead I went with Judas Priest song, which really has nothing to do with this either, but the song is called Painkiller. So I thought, there we go, Painkiller. They need brains to kill the pain, so Painkiller. And that's from the 1990 album of the same name.
Yes, it's a good one. I love Judas Priest. I grew up listening to Judas Priest.
I did see them live once anyway. But I was more of an Iron Maiden guy, I guess, if you think back then, whatever. But I still like Judas Priest, yes. And they're still around, of course. Okay, then we get to section 8, which I call Freddy Turns. And they're back in that chapel where they locked them up with Tina. Freddy's not looking so hot, neither is Frank. But anyway, Freddy's skin goes, his pale, his eyes go milky, and we see him slipping away. He tells her how much he loves her just before he tries to eat her.
That's right.
But anyway, Freddy goes full zombie and lunges for Tina. She screams and runs around this tiny little room until the other people come in because they hear her screaming. And while they're trying to killed Freddy, I guess. Frank gets out and they don't see him escape or whatever. But anyway, he runs out of there. We don't know what he's doing, but of course, we'll find out soon. And so they have some toxic chemicals that I guess they got before, and they threw it at Freddy's face, and it burns him a little and slows him down. And then they close the door and take Tina and get out and lock him back in the chapel still by himself now, though. And they didn't really realize that, even though they didn't realize Frank got out, but they don't see Frank again anyway, so it doesn't matter to them.
Frank is in so much pain, but he's able to jump up and run away. But they had to carry him into the chapel, but he immediately just jumps up and runs right out. I'm thinking, are you actually in that much pain?
Yeah, when they were taking him in there, I forgot to mention yeah, they're screaming, they're carrying him and they're screaming, and this hurts so much.
Could you imagine, though? Think of it in a real life sense. Could you imagine feeling yourself going through rigor mortis? That would be intense, wouldn't it? But then he just jumps off and runs away.
Yeah,
See ya.
I guess maybe, I don't know. Maybe he was, I don't know why he had no pain for doing that. But anyway, you didn't pick a rigor mortis song, did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
I was going to ask you.
But Freddy, I feel his first impulse as a newly turned zombie isn't just to bite anyone. So he goes right for Tina right away, telling her how he wants to eat her brains. And like you said, he says, I love you. And he's basically been whining this whole time. But she's been rubbing his hair. Poor Freddy. But it's a tense moment. The lighting in the chapel gets darker. He really turned. He was foaming at the mouth. His eyes were glazed over. He was chasing Tina. He didn't seem like a very strong person before he turned at all. But then all of a sudden, he's got all of this strength. And he goes between the pews before the others come in and intervene. And again, she gets away. The little naive, innocent girl gets away. So, yeah. I guess that's love. I guess she stuck with her man as long as she could, but yeah, he did immediately act on that brain impulse once he turned too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I could mention that. Oh, I'll mention that later. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So what song do you have for number 8?
Number 8. I chose The Crown Zombified off the Possessed 13 album from 2003. They're also from Sweden. Really good band. Because Freddy gets zombified. He turns completely in this part.
Don't you wish you could zombify yourself?
Yeah.
And go see people that you hated? Okay, anyway.
Go eat people's brains.
Yeah. You can't kill you. Okay, and my song was I have a thrash group for the song, Tankard, who are from Germany. Their 1986 album, Zombie Attack. Even though I guess that could have been used anywhere on this movie. But Freddy's Zombie Attack. So I got Tankard Zombie Attack. And I'm sure that is about zombies. I'm not sure if it's about a certain movie or what. I didn't really look that much into it, but yes. Okay. Then we go to. I think it's
great.
So section 9, Bert and Spider is the African American guy who he doesn't really look like a punk either. But anyway, so him and Bert, he seems like he might be the smartest one of all of them, maybe. But anyway, so Bert and Spider, they decide they're gonna run out to get to the cop car because they figure the keys are still in it and stuff. But there are way too many zombies swarming the mortuary to rescue Tina and her boyfriend. Like, they go get the car, then they drive back up to the warehouse or to the mortuary. But there's too many zombies. There's no way they're going to be able to get them out. So they take off. And Of course, Bert is driving away, but of course, he's not a very good driver. So they run into, I guess they see so many zombies and they swerve to miss them, ran into a tree. I believe they ran into a tree. And so they had no other better plan. They just run back to the warehouse where the other two punks, boy and girl, are in there. They didn't really do. They confronted some zombie earlier, but they haven't really did much in the movie. They're just in there hiding. So anyway, they ran into there. Bert and Spider ran into there and met those two there. And then back at the mortuary, Tina and don't have his name here, but the mortuary, what's his name? Sorry, I forget his name. Damn.
Is it Bert?
Bert, no, Bert's the other guy.
The guy, Frank?
No, it's not Frank either. Damn. But anyway, it doesn't matter. They go up to the attic or whatever in this mortuary. And
Ernie.
Freddy's trying to come up there and he's lovingly calling out for Tina and saying, Tina, I love you. I want your brains or whatever. And I think this relationship is over.
I think so, Tina. This relationship is over.
And let's see. Oh, and this is where, and I also have in here where this is where Frank goes into that. Now I forget the name of the thing you burnt, crematorium. Sorry. Yes, he goes in there and climbs up on the table himself and then leans over and flips the switch because he knows how to run this thing.
Yeah, he does.
And so he burns himself alive or burns himself dead, however you want to put that. Okay, so what do you have to say about that?
I think this is chilling because, first of all, I don't like attics. I don't like any spaces that are enclosed. So Tina and Ernie are hiding in the attic, and Freddy is now zombified, trying to smash through, crying for her, wanting her. I don't know why he didn't go after anyone else but her.
I guess this is a smart zombie, and you want to eat your girlfriend first.
Eat your girlfriend, yeah. Drag her into it. Come on,
Oh.
turn her in.
Maybe he thought she'd be the easiest one. But
yeah, probably. She seemed like it, but she was strong.
yeah.
But then there's this moment where it's Bert. Is it Ernie, sorry.
Ernie, yes.
Ernie, the mortician is Ernie. So he points the gun at her head.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? I think he was struggling with, should I just put her out of her misery?
Yes.
Because she's going to die anyway. At that point, he's thinking, we're going to die anyway, so I'll just put her out of her misery because she's been on 10 this whole time trying to save her boyfriend, and now she finally realizes there's no saving him. It's over. The relationship is done. Yeah. And then hints at possibly mercy killing with her. But this scene definitely is chilling because of the attic. It's jarring, and it goes towards that bureaucratic detachment paired with apocalyptic destruction. There's no dramatic military buildup, or there's no heroic score. Everybody who's supposed to be a hero gets murdered. So now they're at a point where they have to rely just on themselves. And then this whole scene, it just feels cold. There's nobody there to help them. All their friends are dying. And did they even start to realize what happened is my question. Did they even start to realize that maybe that triotoxin went in the air? Because there was never any mention of it. But I guess this kind of hints at the fact that everybody in charge is useless. But
Yes.
That's that punk vibe in the movie. There's a lot of tension and sadness because Tina's really sad that her boyfriend turned as well.
Yes. Now they didn't really show, so he must have shot her and then shot himself, but they didn't show it, or you didn't hear it because they weren't seen again.
I think that he busts at the end of the movie, he busts through.
Yeah.
During the nuclear attack.
Oh,
he busts through and they're still alive. So I think he thought about it. I should just kill her and put her out of her misery.
Okay.
But I don't think it happened.
Yeah.
I don't think it happened.
Yeah. So something else took care of him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So what's your song for that one?
So I chose for this one, I chose Possessed Entity, Organ Feasting Frenzy, because our newly zombified boyfriend is on a frenzy to kill his girlfriend. Or eat her brains. Not really kill her, just wants her brains.
Yeah, because he's in pain.
He's in pain. Wah.
And how
He
much
whined and
brains?
he's whining,
How much brains did they need to not be in pain?
That's what I wondered. How much do
Because
they need?
when they
It's
showed one of
probably
the
never ending.
paramedics and there was like 3 or 4 zombies eating them, they can't all be eating the brain at the same time because the brain's only so big.
And then some of them were abandoned when, for instance, when the cops showed up and they found it, there was one paramedic that hadn't been completely eaten, and then the other one is being feasted on. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much they need, but I'm sure it's a short acting relief, because the amount of people who died just speaks volumes that it probably wasn't very effective to eat brains. It probably didn't last long.
Yeah. Probably what, Chinese food, you get hungry again really fast.
Yep. Yeah, you get hungry in half hour.
Okay, and my song, I went with Motorhead and Killed by Death.
Yay.
Self-explanatory.
I love it.
Okay, then we get to the final scene here, which I'm gonna call it Duke Nukem or Nukem All, with zombies overrunning everything and a whole bunch. There was a lot of cop cars there then, but I think all the cops are dead too. Bert and the remaining 3 survivors head to the warehouse basement to where the tanks were, or where the tanks are. And so now they're going to do what you said they should have did in the first place. They're going to phone the military. So Bert calls the number and the army. What? Oh yeah. So he calls the army and when he says what's going on. And so that calls that guy that we seen earlier with his wife there in his house. And so then he's calling the army guy to set the coordinates for this and that or whatever. And then of course they bomb. They set the coordinates for where the tanks are, and they bomb and kill everybody in that area. And we hear the general casually say, there was fewer than 4,000 dead. No biggie. As we have as a clean, efficient. No, he didn't say no biggie. I added that in. Sorry. He just said only less than 4,000 dead. So that's a good thing. And so we think everything's over. And then as the city is reduced to ash, we hear some screams and toxic. The rain starts falling again. And then we hear, do you want a party? By, I guess a skeleton said that, didn't he? I think. You want a party? Okay.
What's the moral of the story here? Authority is useless. I love this scene. It's great. It emphasized the movie's jab at government efficiency. And I just love it. The whole anarchy vibe and punk vibe of it. And they mock the government and the military and healthcare and police, and everyone in charge is dying. There's no help. None whatsoever.
Yeah, there was no final girl or final boy in this movie.
Yeah, none. And that's when Freddy busts through the attic, when the bomb and the nuclear missile comes and hits. The movie ends with him busting through the attic. Is that right?
Yeah.
When he pushes his arm through. Yeah. And Tina and Ernie are still alive, but
second later, they wouldn't be. Yeah.
They wouldn't be. Yeah, but she found a new boyfriend at least before she died.
An older man, yeah.
An older man. But at least he had a gun.
Yes.
He was the only one. And he was a doctor.
Yeah. Okay, what song did you pick for that for the end then?
So the last one I picked was Nuclear Assault, Radiation Sickness. 1986 Game Over album, and it's thrash. And I don't pick much thrash, but this one was great.
I also picked the thrash one, not that one though, but I have
Oh
Exodus.
my gosh, I thought we were gonna match on that one. That one song, I thought maybe.
I have Exodus, and then there were none.
Nah. Oh
you know.
yes, that's a good one.
At first, I was going to say Fabulous Disaster, also by Exodus, because that's about bombs and the government and stuff. So that would fit too. But then I just thought, oh yeah, and then there were none because nobody's left, and that was
Nobody's left. But then
people.
it's gonna start all over again because they release what happened. Yeah, the triotoxin must have released when the bomb went off, right?
Yes, yeah, and so that leads to a part 2 for sure. Except it has nothing to like I watched some of part 2. You've seen part 2.
Yeah.
And we have Frank and Freddie are in that again. Even though I guess they're not Frank and Freddie, because of course they're dead.
They're all different in this in the second one, yeah.
But I believe I heard him say the same line where he says, if you want to keep this job, because they were in a cemetery in that movie too. And dealing with dead bodies that came to life too. But I didn't watch the rest. I didn't think it was as good as this one, so I didn't make it through.
The first ones are always the best.
Yes,
first ones are always.
I did watch the third one. It had a lot of kids involved in it, and they had a canister there too, and whatever. And of course, that's how it started in the third one. I did watch all of that, but I was busy doing other stuff, so I wasn't really just watching the movies. And there's also a 4 and 5, which I haven't seen yet, but maybe someday you'll check that out. Now, would you have any more notes on this movie?
Oh my gosh, I have so many.
Okay.
I have a lot.
Okay.
So some things that I've learned. Facts. The black guy in the movie, he was actually homeless and he took this part.
Oh.
He was homeless all the way through filming too. And he took this part in the movie just so he could feed himself, but he did wonderful. He did such a good job with that. And then Tom Matthews, the one who played Freddie, he pierced his ear to help him get the role. That's the only reason why he pierced his ear, was to get the role in the movie. What else do I have? Oh, I wonder if anyone's ever thought about what Ernie was listening to in the mortuary with his old school headphones, remember?
Yeah, I was thinking classical music. They didn't.
Nope.
Did you ever hear it? I don't remember.
So he's listening to the German Afrika Korps march song, Panzer Rollen in Afrika War, on his Walkman while he embalms bodies. And then he also carries a German Walther P38. That's the gun that he carries around. Yeah, it's kind of little character details. And then I noticed also there's a picture of Eva Braun in his morgue.
Now, if you had his job and you're by yourself with dead bodies, would you have headphones on?
He's just so good with he's so comfortable with his job. Did you see that thing that he had on the table? It's actually pretty accurate. I've been in mortuaries before. I've seen that. And it was actually pretty accurate. And when they show Freddie with the blood pooling in his back, it looked realistic to me. I thought that's exactly how it does happen. I've seen that too in real life. So I think they did great with that part of it for sure. But I think he's just so comfortable with his job that he didn't expect anything like that to happen to him that night. And he broke his foot too.
Yeah,
that was crazy. Broke his foot. And he couldn't run anywhere. And before Dan O'Bannon became a director, he almost paired up with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre director Tobe Hooper to do the movie. Yep, it almost happened. But then Toby Hooper left for a different project, and then Dan took the lead of the Return of the Living Dead. So we almost had Toby Hooper on there as well as director. Imagine how that would have been.
And
But-
well, and let's see, did Dan O'Bannon work on Night of the Living Dead, or was it somebody? I think it was somebody else. John Russo worked with
Yep.
George Romero on Night of the Living Dead together, but they had a disagreement, so they went their separate ways. And I guess
Romero did not like the portrayal of the zombies in the movie.
yeah,
He didn't like the way they were smart and this and that. So I think that's why it didn't work out.
yeah, and I guess
Yeah.
George Romero kept the word. Sorry. Russo kept the Living Dead because they worked on Night of the Living Dead, and he kept the Living Dead name, and then George kept the Night. That's dumb. I don't know.
But guess what? That year that Return of the Living Dead was released, it was a huge success.
Mm-hmm.
What was the budget? 4 million or something like that?
Yes, it was about 4 million.
Yeah, but that same year, Romero, he released Day of the Dead, and it didn't tank, but it suffered. It wasn't as popular as The Return of the Living Dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it made over $14 million. I don't know if that meant overall. It doesn't say that. So I don't know if that meant overall or just the first year. Maybe that means overall, but that's $10 million profit.
But they released the movie the same year, and Romero's movie tanked comparing to theirs. It wasn't as The Return of the Living Dead didn't gain much popularity until later on, but it did better at the box office than Romero's movie that year. It must have pissed him off. But and the extras that played the zombies actually ate real brains. Did you know that?
No.
So in the DVD commentary, they revealed they were not human brains, but they were calf brains. And Dan O'Bannon himself, he ate some of the brains to make the zombie actors feel better about it. So they were eating calf brains. It was real brains. I thought that was interesting. Real skeletons and real brains.
And anything else?
I'm looking.
Okay.
I have more.
We do know that. Yeah, we've already discussed the thing about they're smart, they could talk, they could move fast. Because most zombie movies and The Walking Dead, they didn't do that. Yeah, they were all. I think they did eventually in The Walking Dead. It changed later, but in the early days, yeah, it was all. And I think I do like the. I like the Night of the Living Dead kind of zombies better. Like I like that the zombies can't move fast
and can't talk and problem solve.
But I love this movie, but I'm just saying, I think if I had to choose, I would want them to not move fast, because if zombies can move fast, how are you going to survive?
Yeah.
If they're slow, then you can run by them and stuff like that. It seems more like you have a better chance. But if zombies are smart and fast,
there was a way to kill them. There was a surefire way to kill them. In this movie, there's no way. We don't know what the secret is.
Zombies and they could run fast. You got no chance.
Did you know that Trash had to shave everything off for her part when she was naked? She had to shave down there.
Oh.
And she was mad about it. She was upset. And they made her wear a prosthetic over it too. Like a little plastic thing. Yeah.
She said she was more uncomfortable wearing the thing than just being naked.
Yes, I could only imagine having to wear something plastic over that. But I think what made her more upset is that they made her shave it all off. Yeah. But that was one interesting fact that I saw. But yeah. I have more, but I'm just going through, what I have. But it's definitely a good movie.
It's one of my favorite movies ever. And it's just, again, I think the comedy really is just those two guys, Frank and Freddie. screaming their heads off when they're being carried around and they're dead and stuff. I don't know. That was just funny.
It is funny. And everybody who's in charge is an idiot. Everybody. Even the military guard. They're like, yeah, just send a nuke over it. It's fine. No big deal. No one's going to be affected by it. Just kill everything off. But then they end up not killing everything off. Yeah. I love it. I love the anarchy vibe, punk vibe. I think they really hit the mark with that, especially with the zombies. I really do like the zombies. They have some sort of intelligence to them and they're able to verbalize their needs, but there's no way to kill them. That's the only problem.
That's a little problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Tarman's definitely the best though. I like Tarman.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Do you know what movie we're doing next?
I wanted to do Halloween.
Okay. Number 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes. Of course it
Okay.
works.
I wanted to do Halloween because I feel like there's a lot going on in the franchise right now that it would be a good one to dive into.
Okay. What year is that? Do you remember? 78?
The first Halloween?
Yeah. We don't have to look it up.
I always forget. Hold on.
It must have been, I don't know, back then.
1978. Yep.
Oh, I was
I
right.
thought so, but I didn't want to say 77. I always want to say 77, but it's 1978.
Okay, so that everybody should watch Halloween again and follow along on the next episode. And like we've said before on previous episodes, or maybe on social media if you're following us there, if you want to send us your 10 songs that you would pick for the movies that we do, we might read them on a future episode. If you want to suggest a movie that you would like to hear us talking about, even if it's one we haven't seen, we'll go to Blockbuster and rent it. Okay, we won't do that, but we'll stream it and try to find it.
I wish Blockbuster was still around. I wish.
I live in a small, or actually, when I was a kid, I lived on a farm. But whatever, in the town that I closest to, which I live in now, there was no Blockbuster. There was places that had movies, but it wasn't big enough.
Yeah, at corner stores and things. I remember that. I used to go across the border to Canada because I live close and go rent movies at the corner store.
They used to have machines that you could rent a movie out of. You'd put some coins in this thing and pick out like a vending machine for movies.
Yeah, and then you could go outside and put your money in the vending machine to get a pack of smokes. It was great times.
And now you can buy booze at a grocery store.
You can.
Anyway, so that was fun doing that one. And yeah, so next one we're doing Halloween. So thanks everybody for listening, and please subscribe and or rate us if you can, depending on where you listen to us. We're also on the Metal Pits YouTube channel. If you like, it's still just the audio version of the podcast, but I see some people are listening to it on there. So if you want to listen to it on there, I guess YouTube Music it's also on YouTube Music too, so you can listen to it there. But yes, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and send a message if you have any questions, comments, or like I said, movie suggestions. So thanks, Lonnie.
Thank you, Blake.
And goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
You were listening to Someone's in My Fruit Cellar podcast. Subscribe and rate our podcast wherever you listen to our podcast. Podcast edited by Blake. Visit our socials. Till next time.